basically didn't have a place that we wanted to drink. So we started something called Gaming Gallery, and it was based around retro video games and what we considered craft beer at the time. And we did that for a few months, and it was really successful. And for a number of reasons, it had to stop. And so we decided to actually look for a real venue in city center. Lucked out and found this venue. Put some time and effort into it, and basically this is what the end product was. The venue was really mostly luck. We were looking for a venue, and in city center there's lots of venues, but not a lot that are suitable for the type of things that we wanted to do. Whether they were too small or they didn't have an atmosphere, a number of problems. And actually this building itself had a problem. This is a former Ladbrokes, had been for over 20 years. And so the walls had been breeze blocked in, everything was square, everything was sterile white. It was unappealing. So the first time that we walked in here with the ability to rent this place, I actually gave it a hard no. The location was perfect, but the way it looked was awful. So we went and we kept looking for other places. I think some other people put bids on in this place, and those fell through. So we revisited it a few months later, and by that time our landlord had basically stripped everything back, and we got to see the beauty of what this building is. So instead of breeze block, we had these great exposed walls and these really old beams running through the middle of the building. Really, we couldn't say no after that. And so we decided that this was the place for us, and we got lucky. Our landlord chose us over the odds, really. There were a lot of people that were interested in the building, but decided that we were the right people to go. He took a bit of a risk on us, and again, the rest of it's history. We've been here 3.5 years, so it's great. So historical features, we actually have quite a few in this building. It's pretty nice. This is either the second or the third oldest building, Cathedral Square. It's also one of the very few buildings that's below ground. Everything else is at ground level, aside from the church in the middle. Everything else is obviously about 3 feet taller than we are. We also have ultra low ceilings based upon that. So assumably this is original ground level. The city itself has just grown itself. The walls to your left hand side would have been quarried 15th century-ish, which was where the beginning of this building would have come from. On the right hand side, next to our shuffleboard, we have some of that feature that I was talking about, the paper over paper over paper. And we're not really sure when that came in. I mean, I think it would have been over a certain period of time, but what period of time we're not sure, but it's a few hundred years old at least. And we have a really nice beam running down the middle of the front side of the building, right down the middle, and they would assume that that predates the building itself. It would have come from a clipper, and so they would have taken part of a ship and put it in there. It was just a strong way of keeping a building together, basically. What we do know also, though, is that there's a river that flows underneath the building here. It comes from the cathedral and goes to the Nene someplace, but it's part of what would have been the whole system that runs through this whole area. We're really lucky that we have a couple of guys that come and drink. They are part of a design studio. Well, they are a design studio. They're not part of it. There's 2 of them in it. They're called Visual Etiquette, and they've helped us. Like I said before, that we started this place extremely sparse. I mean, if you saw some of the original pictures, it looked terrible. But with their help, like I said, it was community. We've designed this place to look like a modern, nice bar that incorporated some of the old features. They chose the color, the scheme, and they've chosen the way it was to be designed. When we have tap takeovers, which is something that we have 5, 6, 7 a year of, they actually do custom artwork for us for each one of those. So it's something that it's that extra value that we bring to tap takeovers, but we also want to celebrate the fact that these guys are doing amazing work, and quite frankly, I think it's absolutely, they are pieces of work. The ethos of Stoneworks really comes down to one thing, and that's quality. Everything we do is geared towards quality, whether it be the spirits that we choose to put on our shelves, the cocktails that we custom make, the beers that we choose in from the best breweries in the country, to the service that we have. Everything is supposed to be and should be absolutely top notch. It should be, basically, when you walk in here, it should be so easy and so comfortable that although you have a lot of choice and it can be daunting, everything should be around it being perfect. Really, I think the thing that makes us really special are the people that work behind the bar. Well, the people that work behind the bar and the people that actually come in and drink. If we didn't have the people behind the bar doing what they do to the level that they do, we wouldn't have the people that come in to drink. And if we didn't have the people that we have come in to drink, we'd just be another bar. It'd just be another drinkery. And I think we're much more than that. So I think it is, when it comes down to it, it's community. And that community is based around the fact that we have the best service in the city. It takes a special person to work here, I'm not gonna lie. It's not just simple. You can't just walk off the street and be here. I think that serving in a pub is pretty easy, or it can be easy. You hand somebody a beer, you walk away, that's the end of it. That's not how our service provision works at all. Here we expect people to talk. We expect, if somebody's standing at the bar and you're not serving something, then you should be sitting there talking to them. We take the philosophy that if you're standing at the bar, more than likely you want to communicate with somebody. So your job isn't just service. It is, well, it's not just service of a product, it is service in general. So the beers are my passion. It's my personal side of the business, and it's something that I've spent probably 20 years working on, whether it be in the States or in this country. Basically, we have, you can see behind me, this big square silver looking thing with all the taps sitting on it. That's a big cold store. So everything is kept at 4 degrees. There's very few places in the country, probably less than 30 in the country, that run a system like this. We were, as far as we know, the first in the country of this size doing this kind of thing. The technology behind it is basically you keep your beer cold the same way you would, well, beer is a live product, so it's very much like, the best way to compare it is like milk. You wouldn't go and buy a carton of milk or a jug of milk and leave it on the counter and expect for it to be delicious tomorrow. It probably wouldn't hurt you to drink of it, it wouldn't taste very good. And it's the same thing with beer, is a lot of places take their beer, they leave it at ambient temperature, it gets warmer. Yes, they put it to make it colder for you to drink, but the damage is already done. So what we do is we make sure that damage never happens. It goes into that cold store and it stays at 4 degrees and it's served at 4 degrees. So we're getting the best beers from the best breweries, putting it into an atmosphere that is the best for the beer, and serving it to you by the best people that we can get. So overall, again, it comes down to that looking for perfection. And we've had a number of times where we've had our beers on here, and you could find the same beers, or 1 or 2 of the same beers, anywhere in the city, where you can go and do a side-by-side comparison, and it's always won hands down that it tastes much better coming out of here. Yeah, sourcing the beers is difficult and super easy. It takes a lot of vetting. I travel around the country often searching for new beers. I get to try new beers all the time. Yes, I know it's a tough life, but somebody's got to do it kind of situation. But we also buy the majority of our beers from one guy or one distributor called Jolly Good Beer. And they have the same ethos as we do. They keep all their beer at 4 degrees. They also have a truck, a singular one, but they typically deliver to us by this truck, which also keeps the beer at 4 degrees. It's a system that's put into place to make sure that quality is at its highest. So between he and myself, or them and myself, we're able to vet the beers and make sure that we always get the highest quality beers in, while having a really wide range of beer, but making it as affordable as possible, which isn't always the case, because again, if you want quality, you have to pay for it, but this is life, isn't it? I being from the States, really am fond of this game. It's called shuffleboard. The only shuffleboard in the city. They're starting to pop up all over the UK. When we first got it in, there were a couple places that had it. Now you can find them a lot more places. Basically, the best way to explain it is like it's curling inside. For me, it's the ultimate bar game though, because you can be social, you can talk, you can also drink, and you can play it at the same time. So it's fun like darts, but less dangerous when you're drinking. So, but yeah, no, it's a game that actually, when we first got the board in, that people were a bit slow. They looked at it and were like, what the heck is this? But now we've actually got a lot of people that come in specifically to play. So they may even just come in and have a soda and play for an hour because it's a really good game. Yeah. I think Peterborough is a fantastic city, and I think that it's a city that has a lot of opportunity for growth. I think we're at the early days as Peterborough being really important, and so this happens to be my home. I've lived here for over 15 years now. So this has probably been the city that I've lived in longest ever in my life. So it is very much home for me. My business partner, Sean, he is a local lad. So again, the bar itself was destined to be here, really. Stoneworks is new Peterborough. I think that we are the new wave of what's to come. I like to think of us as that opening wave that people, prior to opening this, or even still now, people ask, why Peterborough? Why would you do that? Why you could open this anywhere and it'd be successful? And that's pretty much my answer. Because it's Peterborough. Peterborough deserves it. And so I think what it's done is it's shown the city that we deserve something like this. That we don't just have to have whatever, it's fine, go do whatever you want. We can have nice. We can have good. People will show up to it. People will enjoy it. People will hate it as well because they won't understand it. But that's I'll take good and bad in both. And I think that we are the beginning of people seeing that Peterborough can be different. I mean, I love it. But yeah, that's it.